Welcome to Tech Brothers with Damir. In this video, we are going to learn how to create and configure self-hosted integration runtime. First of all, we are going to take a look at what exactly is self-hosted integration runtime. And then there are a couple of things that we would like to do after that once we know that definition of a self-hosted IR. Here is the self-hosted IR definition. The integration runtime is the compute infrastructure that Azure Data Factory uses to provide data integration capabilities across different network environments. So that's exactly this compute service can do for us. So think about a scenario where I have my on-prem SQL server or my shared location, and I would like to read the data from that location or from SQL server and upload to the cloud. That's where it is going to work for us. So different network environments. Now, a self-hosted integration runtime can run copy activity between a cloud data store and a data store in private network. So as exactly I said that, think about a scenario where I have a SQL server on my on-prem, and that's my local SQL server on my different network, and I would like to copy the data from, let's say, TechbrothersIT, and that is one of the table called SSIS JSON. I would like to copy this data to the cloud. Now that's where this is going to be very helpful for us. It can also dispatch transfer activities against compute resources in an on-premises network or an Azure virtual network. The installation of self-hosted integration runtimes need an on-premises machine or virtual machine inside a private network. So to set up a self-hosted IR, what we need our machine, or some actually we use multiple machines on the on-premises where we install the software, and then we create a IR on the Azure side, and they communicate. And that we use in different pipelines to create the data activity, so we can read the data from the on the premises and load to the cloud, or we can read or write read the data from the cloud, maybe Azure SQL, or from a blob storage, and write to the on premises. So we can do different things. Now in this scenario, exactly that's what I wanted to do. I'm reading the data, so read data from on-premises SQL Server table and generate a file in the blob storage on Azure. That's what we are going to do. Another possibility what we are going to do, we are going to read a file or copy a file from our on-premises. That's sitting on one of my folder here, let's say in the ADF folder right there. And what I would like to do, I would like to read this file from shared location. That's my on-premises network and to the Azure storage. So there are multiple demos we are going to perform. But before doing that, we need to create the self-hosted IR. First of all, what we need, we have open Azure Data Factory here, and in the we are going to go to the Manage tab. In the Manage tab, where we need to go, we will go to the Integration Runtime, and here we are going to create Azure self-hosted integration runtime. That's where we are going to create, and there are multiple types of IRs available, and you can see right here there is one called Azure. So if you are working only with cloud data, so let's say you are reading data from SQL cloud, let's say Azure SQL, and then you are writing data to Blob, Azure IR is going to work just fine for you. Then we have self-hosted, where you are going to read the data from on-premises and load to the cloud, or you are going to read the data from the cloud and write to the on-premises. So that's where your self-hosted comes in. And then you have Azure SSIS, that you can use SSIS packages to execute them the Azure and perform different tasks. So click on the first one, and then we are going to go hit continue, and here we are going to select self-hosted. Now we provide the name. I'm going to call it a self-hosted, and then I will say IR. So that's the name underscore IR. Okay, actually it's not accepting underscore as well, so just keep that as it is, self-hosted IR, and that's the name, self-hosted Tech Brothers IT IR demo. Okay, so that's what we just wrote a description here and create. Now once we hit create, if you notice that it is given us a couple of keys, and that's what we are going to use to configure our integration runtime service on our on-premises node, or you can call it a machine or whatever you want to call it. So we will use this key there, and But before we do that, we have to have download and install integration runtime on local machine, and then use the key. So right here, if you see, there are no nodes here. Once we will install that program on one of the server, the node name will come here, IP will come here, and there are some other information that will show up right here. And there is auto update. You can disable or enable. In my case, I am leaving this enable, but most of the time they might just leave that to disable and then or enable, but they will do further on schedule or something like that. So that depend upon them sharing. So in case you want to use the self-hosted IR for multiple data factories, so you can use right here. So you can grant the permissions to another data factory, so that the data factory can use the self-hosted IR that you just created here. Okay, so go back to setting, and here we are going to click on the download and install integration runtime. And I already have downloaded because I was doing some demo, and it took me almost 4 minutes to download. So this is a file that will be downloaded. Now right click on this file and install, and it's starting to install. It's preparing to install. It's going to take some time, not a whole lot information it's going to ask, but let's see what it does ask. So hit next, United States, yes, I accept the terms, and where you would like to do. I'm going to be fine in program file, Microsoft integration runtimes. Hit next and install. The installation is in progress. It takes some time, let's say sometime like 5 minutes or something like that, and then it comes back. So just keep working on installation, and once installation is done, then we will move forward. So finally, our integration runtime setup is completed, and we are going to hit finish. Hit yes, and then now it's going to open this integration runtime configuration manager, and that's where we need to provide that IP key. So I'm going to go back here in the Azure Data Factory and copy any of the key. So you can copy key 1 or key 2, and then now we go back here, and here we will copy and paste, and now you can see that it's validated correctly. Now here a couple of things that you need to notice. Here is the HTTP proxy. So if you are let's say this computer where I'm installing the integration runtime, if this does not have internet access, this is not going to work. So you have to use a proxy server in between your IR that's on Azure Cloud and here on the node. So you will have a proxy server that has access to the internet, and then your machine, that's where we are installing IR, will be connected to proxy first, and then proxy will be connected to the internet, and that's how the communication is going to happen. In my case, my computer has direct access to the computer internet, so I'm fine. Next, what we are gonna do, we're gonna hit register, and is to got the name. It's everything looking good. So below it's saying below is a list of the integration runtime self-hosted nodes, and enable remote access from intranet. So in case what I want to do, if I want to have multiple nodes for my integration runtime, and I need to enable that right here and add the other nodes. So right now, what's happening here? I have only one laptop. That's where I am installing this integration runtime. But in real world, what you're gonna do, you're gonna install on at least two nodes, because if your one computer dies, at least you have a backup that integration runtime is running, and you will be able to fetch the data or load the data to the on-premises SQL servers or other databases, and also maybe create the files on the shared location. So you need the integration runtime running all the time, and most of the setups I have seen, people have at least two nodes. So if I hit finish, it's gonna finish just fine. It's initializing integration runtime self-hosted node components. So please wait, this may take a few seconds. So that should be quick. And once that's done, it's gonna pop up as message that will talk about a little bit more about adding other nodes, more than one node, and why you should add more than one node. Okay, so we got the smiley face here. Integration runtime self-hosted node has been registered successfully. Note, you can associate up to 4 physical nodes with self-hosted integration runtime, and this enables high availability and scalability for the self-hosted integration runtime. We recommend you to set up at least 2 nodes for higher availability. You can click right here for more details. That's exactly I was talking about. So at least have two nodes in case one dies, the other one take over and help. But in also in case of parallel execution, you need more nodes. So think about your if your computer has only 4 CPUs and 8 GB RAM, and you are getting a lot of requests for data loading or extraction from the on-premises to the cloud. That CPU and memory is gonna be exhausted. Maybe there will be 100% use. In that case, you need another node. So I have seen people using two nodes minimum with maybe 32 GB RAM and at least 16 processors. So depending upon your load, what this machine will be used. So compute of these machines will be used to perform all those tasks. So make sure you have plenty of CPU and RAM on these machines which you are using for integration runtime. Launch a configuration manager, click there, and you can see that the service is running and it's just fine. So you can stop the service, or you will let it run actually, and it's just fine. Now go to settings, and here remember that remote access from the internet. If you want to change those kind of proxy settings and everything, you can have the option here. And here is the diagnostics. So if you want to, let's say you want to create view logs, if you want to see that, you can click right here, and maybe to give you some information. So what's this going to do? It's going to open the event log. So it's going to open the event viewer, and that's where your all logs are going to be there. So you need to actually pay a lot of attention in this logs. So any failures for integration runtime, that's going to happen right here. So this is a service. If you go to services if you, let's say, search for services, and you're going to see this service on the computer. So integration runtime. So let me type it here, and this is your integration runtime service. So this is right there. Now, if you click double click here, and you need to know that a couple of things are very important. Log on, and that's the account being used in the for the service DIA host service. So I just want to make sure, I want to tell you this. I have seen a lot of errors. People do not have this account login as service permission. That's where they get a lot of problem. So you should in the policies, in the permissions, you need to go and add this account and have this account as login as service. So it should be part of that policy. Otherwise, sometimes people get different permission issues and all that. Now you see that if your service goes down from here, what's going to happen? Then Microsoft side, the heartbeat is not going to be received. So this service is actually sending signal every 30 seconds or something like that to the Microsoft Azure Cloud portal, where your IR is configured, and telling this service is telling that I am alive. That's how they are communicating, and they're able to use this service to transfer the data from the on-premises to the cloud. Now they keep in mind that this service has to be keep running all the time. So make sure this service is not stopped, and that's your first thing. In case your pipelines are failing, you need to make sure your service is running. Also, sometime I have seen that due to the firewall settings, this service is not able to communicate with the cloud. So you make sure your firewall is set up to have the permission to use this integration runtime can reach to the cloud. So these are the things you need to remember. And for all that information, you need to go to the event viewers, and in the event viewer you have connectors and integration runtime, and that's where all the information is going to be there. Now, a lot of things that we have done that in the send logs. What's going to happen if you want to do that? You're going to click send logs, and it's going to create an please send your log to Microsoft facilities troubleshooting. And once you do that, send logs is going to give you a unique report ID that you will give to the Microsoft, and Microsoft can read your logs on their system side and tell you what exactly is happening or what went wrong. If you have problem with memory, CPU, connectivity, and all those kind of things. So let's cancel this out. We are not sending any logs to the Microsoft right now. Also, you can test connection to your different servers here, and that will be helpful to see if your integration runtime is able to access your databases. Let's go ahead and test one of the SQL server we have here. I have this SQL server. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get the name of this server. So let's get the server name, and we execute the query. I'm going to copy this server name, and I have, let me open the SQL Server and the name of the server, and then authentication mode basic, and I'm gonna call this I have user called it TB user, and that's my SQL Server authentication user, and the permission it has permission on TechbrothersIT database. So I can go ahead and take a look, and it was able to connect successfully, so I don't have any problem. If you want to update check the updates, your integration runtime 5.8 is the max right now. That's the latest one is happening, and you can keep up checking that what is the version and all those kind of things. Okay, so your integration time runtime is running, service is running just fine on the node, and now this is the time to go to the portal and take a look. Let's go to the, we can close this here, go to nodes and see that before configuring on our laptop, this node was not there. Once we added this node, it is running, and we can see the IP and all those kind of things. Now if you go right there, nothing a whole lot change here. You have a schedule, you can change the schedule and everything, and you have this sharing part that was already there. Now we are all done here, and you see that self-hosted IR is running just fine, and we can cancel this out and go to the this monitor tab, and here you can see pretty much its status running, self-hosted IR, and this is the version it is using, how many nodes are added, and high availability enabled. In this case it's not enabled because I have only one node. Now then other information such as your node name here, status running, version, and available memory. So how much memory is available, how much CPU is used, and then what is input and output for the network. So there is a ton of information that can be very helpful when you are using this IR to run your pipeline. Now the actual work start. Our IR is ready, self-hosted IR, and now what we need to do, we need to create some pipelines. In this case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to perform the first demo. I'm going to read the data from an on-premises SQL Server. So let's go to the TechbrothersIT. Here we have SSIS JSON, and I have already created the SQL Server user called the TB user. So actually TB user is a admin, sysadmin on this machine. So I have provided all different permissions to this guy. So right here, TB user, if I double click here, you can see it, I have provided sysadmin role to this guy. So if you want to just create another role, it's okay. You can create any username here and then provide information permissions and then use it. In my case, I will use that one. Now I need to go to the pipeline, and I'm going to read the data from a on-premises SQL Server and create the blob file on the blob storage. I'm going to call it a PL on prem to blob. Okay, so that's our name of the pipeline, and here I'm going to use the copy activity. In the copy activity, my source is going to be, I'm going to select new, and here I'm going to do SQL Server. Okay, so you see right here SQL Server. Hit next, and I'm going to give this on-prem TechbrothersIT. Okay, that's my SQL Server name, and that's what I'm going to give the name. I'm going to create a new linked service, and where it is going, I'm going to call it LNK on-prem TB. Okay, now I will give the server name here, and then I will give the database name here, TechbrothersIT. That's my database name, and SQL authentication, and here is TB user, and password is my favorite password, and now I'm going to go ahead and test connection. If you guys notice that I made a mistake here when I was doing this, making this connection. I did not select the connect via integration runtime, and here I should be selecting a self-hosted IR. So that's what I needed to select instead of auto resolve integration runtime. That's my Azure, so that my cloud to cloud. You know, if I'm doing anything on the cloud, this is where I will use auto resolve integration runtime. So I was supposed to select self-hosted IR, and that's why I did not, and that's why my connection was failed. Now I'm gonna hit choose the right IR. So that's our self-hosted IR, and we have installed the integration runtime on our laptop already, and that's where our SQL Server is. So finally it is completed successfully. Now hit create, and we should be all good. Now it is creating the linked service, and now it is asking which table you would like to use. I'm going to use that SSIS JSON table. Now I don't really care about schema part and all that. I'm going to hit OK, and now let's go to the open here. Dataset is created, and here I'm going to go and say preview. Now it should we should get some records and see we are getting the ID, first name, last name, and all that. And these records are coming from the on-prem SQL Server. Now I'm going to go back to my pipeline, and I'm going to go to sync here, and then I'm going to create the connection or a data set for the blob. So Azure Blob Storage, that's what I'm selecting. Here is going to be okay. CSV file is just fine. Now, okay, what I will do, SSIS JSON, I'm gonna just give it a name, dset. Okay, now linked service. So I have to tell from where my which blob storage. So I'm gonna call it this blob storage 5. I already have the linked service anyways, but I'm gonna create a new one for you. And here you can select your self-hosted IR. Even you can select auto resolve because your blob storage is on cloud, so that's not gonna be problem. But I'm gonna go ahead and select self-hosted IR. Now you are going to provide your account information. TechbrothersIT is my storage, and let's go back and take a look on my storage. Here is my TechbrothersIT is storage, and I have multiple containers. Which one? Some of them has this is, let's say, output is one, and I have a few files sitting there. I'm going to delete those files because we are going to create a new file in this container. Fine, we go back here, and that's I can give a name, let's say LNK or something at the end. So this is a link service, so that's going to the our Azure Blob Storage, and we are using let's say test connection first, and then we will create okay, test is successful, and now we are creating this linked service. And here I have to select the container in which I would like to create the file. I'm going to go ahead and select output container, and then hit OK. Once it's loading right now, hit OK, and I will provide my file name. SSIS JSON file .txt is just gonna work fine for me. And first to have header, yes, and I don't care about import schema and all that, so hit OK. Let's debug this pipeline. It should read the data from our on-premises SQL Server. So if you guys notice, that's the table, and it has 1000 rows. So that's the data, and that's on our on-premises SQL Server, and we are writing this data to the blob storage. How we are doing it? We are using self-hosted IR that is able to read the data from our on-premises network and write the data to the cloud. So let's go back here in the output folder and refresh, and our file is ready there because we just executed our pipeline, and you can see right there. So it has first that's header, and then have all the rows right there. Now let's go back to the Azure Data Factory. Here you would like to see the records and all that, and it will tell you how many records rows has been written. 2000 rows, because actually the table does have 2000 rows, because I was selecting only top 1000 in this select query. So don't be confused about that. I have 2000 rows. Now that's the first test we perform. Second test, what we are going to do, we are going to copy one file that's sitting here on my local folder, and it's a ADF folder, and I have a lot of files I have actually here. I would like to copy one of the file to my cloud. So I would like to copy one of the file to the blob storage. That's what we are going to do. So go to the your desktop, hit right click here on the folder, go to properties, and here I'm going to go to the sharing and hit the sharing. So now once I hit sharing and provide the permission to the user and hit share, and this is the shared path created. So I'm going to copy the link, and that's what we are going to use. So once a shared location is created, what we are going to do, we are going to go to our Azure Data Factory, create a new pipeline. Here is a new pipeline, and I'm going to say copy data, same activity we are going to use. In this case, our source is going to be different because we are not reading the data from the SQL Server table. Instead, we are reading the data from the file system. So I'm going to say file system, and here is my file system. I'm gonna go ahead and use the binary here because I don't really care. I'm not gonna perform whole lot transformations. Actually, I just want to copy one file to the blob storage from the on-premises. So hit next, and I'm gonna call this one on-prem file, and then I'm going to create a new linked service. So in the linked service, what I have to do is called file server, and I'm going to say TB. Okay, so TB tech browsers, and here you are going to use the self-hosted IR that we have created a few minutes ago. Now you have to provide the host. So these are the formats it's going to accept. So C / folder name, or server name / share folder name, and all that. So I'm going to paste that path that we have copied, and I'm going to remove these file colon this and that, and I'm going to just leave the server name. So double slash, and then server name slash, and all that path to the folder all the way, and then I'm going to provide the username. So my username for this shared one is Amir and dot Shehzad, and I'm going to provide the password. So let's provide the password and test connection. Our test is successful, and now we are all good. And what we can do, we have created the linked service to our file share that's on our prem, and we will be using self-hosted IR to read that to the cloud. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit open, and here I'm gonna browse to one of the file. So that's my all file sitting in my local on ADF folder right here on my on-premises server. So let's say customer.txt. That's what I will select, and now I'm gonna need to go back here, and here I have to provide the sink. In the sink, I'm gonna go to the blob storage because I would like to load the data to the blob storage. Hit binary, and we don't need to create a link service here because we just created a link service in previous demo. So we can use the Azure Blob Storage link. That's the same service. We are gonna navigate to the output folder, and here if you guys notice, I have only one file as of now, JSON ssis.json.txt. So what's gonna happen, we will if we want to name that customer.txt, we can, otherwise we can leave that as it is. So this copy activity is what it is going to do. It is going to read the file from our read the file from our on-premises and load to the blob storage. Okay, so I have renamed PL copy on-premises to the blob, and now let's debug this. Once we run this pipeline, I'm hoping it should copy from the on-prem customer file, this file that we have right here, to our blob storage without any problem. It's queued. I'm waiting, and now I'm gonna go take a look on the output folder, and we can see that the file has been copied here. Go to the customer, and then hit edit, and this is just this file don't have a whole lot record. It says my test file is good. That's all it has. Now we are all good here. Let's go to the Azure Data Factory. That has been completed. So coming back to the main point, self-hosted IR is a very powerful service that you can use to read the data from your on-premises and write to the blob storage or any other cloud such as maybe your database and all that. So depend upon your scenario, you will be reading from on-premises and then writing to the cloud, or from the cloud to the on-premises. So there are a lot of possibilities that it open between the two networks. So I hope you learn the basic techniques and some advanced level concepts in this video, and I thank you very much for watching this video and spending time, and I will see you guys in next video. Please go ahead and subscribe my channel if you guys like my effort. Thank you.